Today, I want to talk about the complex relationship between the gaming space and the esports space and how they're both compared alongside traditional sports. You see, I think there's a much bigger disconnect than people even realize. Personally, I think this comparison is so often made to help define and justify the entertainment value of Twitch when it was bought by Amazon for like $1 billion back in 2014. But 6 years later, in 2020, I think the landscape may have evolved beyond even making this a helpful comparison. But again, it is such an often made comparison that I do want to investigate it. But I'd be silly to do it alone. So I tapped into my network and I grabbed some of the key industry leaders in the gaming and esports space to get to the bottom of whether this is even an apt comparison.
I think the reason it's compared is because both esports and traditional sports are doing the same thing, essentially. It's showing off the skills of someone that is spectacular at the sport or game that they play. The cool thing about esports is I think it's more like golf, where you don't have to be born 7 foot, 6'5" to even have a shot. It's not about that, it's not 100 times harder for me to make it to be pro in this sport. So cool. So I think that's why you see the comparison between esports and traditional sports, because it's not all that different. It's entertainment.
What changes the community at all times, or what changes esports at all times, is the community. The community has always kind of been the driver, because it's a little different than traditional sports in that there's not college and high school and everything in the same capacity. There is high school esports and college, but it's not to the same capacity. In terms of adoption from the mainstream, we're doing so much better than when I first became a pro, because literally most people I talk to now, I could tell them what I do. Part of the allure of traditional sports that doesn't exist in real sports is the physical activity that you see, right?
Yeah.
You barely see some of these players full bodies at tournaments, right, behind a stage. And they want to try to reel in the audience to see more about the player as a person and stuff, which is cool. But yeah, I think that's one of the big differences. I think we're a little slower in some senses because there's not as much physical shock value as seeing Michael Jordan dunk from 20 feet away or whatever. But I think, overall, in terms of acceptance, it's kind of already there. I don't know how much more we're going to get into arena events. I think games like CSGO and stuff, I think the more they're tenured they become, it's easier for each city to have higher numbers. But we're still kind of figuring out the formula for how physical interaction should look for esports.
To me, it's the audience pyramid. You have competitive, which is the tip. You have I'm casual but I compete, which is a larger chunk, and then you have casual gamers, which is most people. I think that the difference is esports fills up a stadium once or twice a year and thinks that it's major league sports, and that's not the case. Esports are minor league baseball, and I think that's the best way that everybody can think about it, because minor league baseball, they have to bust their buns to get people in the seat, and also your expectations are set. We're not expecting major league numbers at a minor league baseball game. Think about it. The Knicks sell out Madison Square Garden when they play the Kings on a Tuesday. And both of those teams are awful and have been awful for years.
Yes.
Esports are decades away from that kind of fandom, that kind of community engagement.
I think that the franchise sport discussion is interesting, and there is a place for both. I really believe in open systems of having give anybody a chance to participate, put a team together and compete and have a chance to elevate to the top. And if you're great at what you do, you can work to actually get there and get discovered through ladders if you're the best, right? If you're the best, you can be in. But I do understand the opportunity of having established infrastructure from a franchise point of view. If you can optimize and you're saying, I'm, Boston's best team or I'm Minnesota's best team, Minnesota has tons of corporations that hyper focus in their markets, right? And sports does that really well. So you see arenas being branded by that corporation that's HQ'd there. You look at Dallas Star with AT&T. Dallas is a big headquarters for AT&T. So they brand it. We could see that happening in esports, where you have the corporations, getting involved because of the local markets. You get communities, you get schools. So I appreciate that angle. I think for the long-term growth of the scene, it's special, but it's not a simple answer.
All right, so what do we think? Did you guys enjoy this as much as I did? Now, I know some of you out there are probably thinking, why would I, from TPN, a digital and live event agency, want to even focus on something like this? I think fully understanding any rapidly evolving industry is a huge part of being an extension to our client's team so that we can continue to best support their efforts. So now that we've talked about the differences between esports and traditional sports, on the next episode, we're going to dive deep into the differences between gaming and esports. So stay tuned, and thanks so much for watching.